Now that I have finished my drawing, I'm ready to get started. So I've taken my watercolors and I've put them above my painting, next to my water cup with some paper towel, right? And I have my 3 brushes ready to go. We're going to start by painting a big portion of our painting, the sky, because we're going to work from the back to the front, which is a very popular way to paint with artists. It makes sure that things that are actually furthest in the foreground are right in front of you, right, look like they're in front of you because all the other things have been painted behind them, and therefore if you go over on the edges a little teensy bit or something, it'll make it appear so that it's behind, the other stuff is behind it. Where if you paint the thing in the front and then paint stuff in the back and you get some of the edges over the thing in the front, then it's not as convincing. Right? So a lot of people paint from the back to the front, and we're going to do that with this painting. With watercolor, you have to think about what you're doing, make a plan, and do it. So on this assignment, I'm going to show you about 4 or 5 extra techniques that you haven't learned yet. And I'm going to demonstrate them. And then your goal is to demonstrate it on your paper in an efficient way so that I can see it. It doesn't have to look as nice as mine. You guys are in Art 1. That's okay. But some of you will have beautiful paintings at the end that you may want to keep. Let's give it a hope. So you're going to first start by learning a little bit about how we do this. So here you can see I've taken a piece of paper and I've written on the 3 colors I'm going to use, and I use a little abbreviation for it. B equals blue, V equals violet. So the first one is blue plus violet, about 50%. So I'll take a little bit of it and I'll show you what I mean. So here we've got a sample of it, all right? And usually I just do this when we get to the demo, but this first one I'll show you how to do it. So the next one is blue plus water. So here I've got some blue with some water in it. Right? And there's a sample of what it looks like. And the third one has blue plus Y for yellow and W. But if you look, the Y is underlined. That means we don't want a lot of it. We want just enough, because if you mix blue and yellow together, you normally get green, right? You want just enough so that the blue changes color, but it doesn't turn green on you. So there you can see the 3 that I'm going to want to do today. So I'm going to put this up over here for you guys if you want to see it as we go. I'm going to take my painting and put it back, and I'm going to talk about the technique we're going to do. We're going to do a wet on wet technique today. And that technique requires that you first paint with a layer of water. So taking your biggest brush that you have, you're going to want to go in with your water cup, get your brush so it's nice and wet, right? And then come in here and paint right over onto the page with water, but not painting where the clouds are, because you want the clouds to stay white, right? So you're going to paint around them, and sometimes that takes a little bit of effort to get it to go in there, and you want to kind of jab it along, and there should actually be pretty much of a puddle, right? It shouldn't be dripping, but it definitely should look wet, right? And that's because you want it fairly wet, because you're going to be a couple minutes doing this. You don't want it to dry out when you do. If for some reason it starts drying out and you don't get, like, you get over to here and it's all dry over there, then you're going to need to put a little bit more on. So I like to usually put it on fairly thick over here and then kind of pull my painting water across as I go, getting a little bit. Now I'm going to go really fast. It'll take you guys longer. That's why I'm saying put it on. The benefits of doing a wet on wet like this is that you have the ability to let you paint a little bit longer, because it wets your paper for you. It allows the paint to move around, and it doesn't dry out as quick, and it doesn't get lines. It goes up to the edges of wherever you paint. So here you can see I'm going around this cloud. All right, I'm working my way over. I have to go in between these guys, go right up to the edge. How can you tell if you're getting it there? Well, you kind of have to tilt your head, or if you tilt your paper, ooh, see, you can see I forgot a spot right there. You see it's running a little bit? That's a little bit excessive with water. If you tilt it and it's running like a pond, that might be a little bit too much. So what did I do? I could just take it, like at the end, if it's too wet, when you're starting, I'll show you what I mean because I've got a place that's too wet. I'm going to go around my hill. Oh, no, these aren't hills. These are trees. Go around my trees. I'm just going to kind of dab my nice little brush here right along the edge, using the tip here to kind of jab it up against it, pulling the water right up to it. Tilt my head, I got a whole bunch of white spot there. And if you tilt the paper, you can see where you missed. Right? It has a different sheen to it. Alright, I need just a teensy bit more down here at the bottom. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a second to look and see if I've missed anywhere. So I'm going to tilt it, see if I missed anywhere. I see one spot that has a bunch of water. If you have one spot or two spots or maybe the whole thing that has a bunch of water, this is drying out over here, that's okay. It's not, you can tell, you can just touch it. If it's still wet, it's okay. But here there's a big puddle. So I'm going to take my brush, dry it off over here, and I'll just take my paintbrush and I'll mop some of it off. Hey, don't do this in a spot the paint gets on the edge of the table. See, I'm getting water on the edge of the table here. So, you know, do this at a kitchen table or something where you can wipe it off with a sponge or something. All right, so here we go. I'm ready to go. I've got it ready to go. I'm excited. All right, here we go. So I'm going to take, be darker up in the top up here and over here. So I'm going to start up here with my dark and see what happens when I put it on. Whoa, it's going crazy. It's going all over the place. See, I'm going to put some over there. Oh my God, it's so cool. I love this about it. All right, so I'm going to continue along the top here. Put a little bit more over here. And I'm kind of working it along. And I'm going to restrict some of my paint off my brush. You see, I'm wiping it off, and then I can pick any I want up. And when it's wet like this with the edges, I can come in here, any little white spots that I like, or if it didn't get close to the tree, I can come in here and go right up close to the tree. A little bit more. And you see how it kind of spans out kind of nicely? That's kind of nice. Let's try some of the blue plus water over in this area. Change the color of your sky up some so it doesn't look the same everywhere. And you're like, oh my God, you're just dropping paint. It's looking, no, it's fine. What you do is you rinse your brush out, and then you come in here, and you don't want to over brush it. You just kind of tap with your brush a little bit. If you over brush, you'll get rid of all the pretty blending, right? But if you just tap a little bit and kind of go along the edges, if it cloud is the wrong shape, maybe pull some color down there. I'm going to put a little bit more color right here, maybe a little bit right there. See how it's starting to like kind of become a sky. Slowly but surely. Now remember, things are going to lighten a little bit. I'm going to go to the yellow, bluish yellow now and put some down here. Things are going to lighten a little bit as you get going. So it dries on your paper, it's going to be a lighter color. So you want to think about that. You want to think, okay, what am I going to do? I need to make sure I paint it just a wee bit darker than I actually want it to be, because it's going to get a little bit lighter. Right? I'm going to take some of the bluish white, put it over here underneath the cloud. Over here, maybe not make it so straight. The clouds probably aren't totally straight on the bottom, so come up and make it a little bit bunchy. Right along to the edge of that sand on my horizon line. And do you see how I'm pulling my brush left and right while I'm doing that? Yeah, that's good. So you get a nice straight line with your horizon line. All right, pulling some of this light blue up into here so that kind of goes together and it doesn't look like one is one way and one is the other. I'm going to put a little bit of this blue over here, maybe just a teensy bit of the violet down there, bluish violet. Right? I feel like it's a little too blue over here. I mean, too purpley, so I'm going to put a little teensy bit there. If it starts to dry out on you, you can always see it. See, it's drying a little bit here, but luckily I'm almost done with that area. You can just add a teensy bit more water before it dries, and then you can keep painting. So if you have that happen, you can just take your brush, rinse it out. See, it's getting a little dry over here. I can just come in here and add a teensy bit more water, and then when I want to paint again in a second, it'll be nice and wet for me. Let's give that a try now and see how it goes. Yep. All right, let that sit for a second and kind of blend in, and then I'll come back and poke it. See, I'm getting the edges right up to where my drawing lines are. Now, if you want to make your clouds look even cooler, you can take a little piece of paper towel. I'm going to show you on one. I think this one will go really well because it's nice and wet there. I'll just tear off a little piece of paper towel and I'll fold it so it has a sharp edge. You see how sharp edge to it? And I come in here and I can pick up just a teensy bit of the paint on the edge here. See how it makes the cloud seem like it's soft and fading out over there, right? So you can come in and shape your clouds a teensy bit with the paper towel. If you want, soften them in a spot, right? Or make them streaked a little bit like on the painting, a little bit like they're almost touching, right? I still want a little bit more right there, and I'm not liking that little hole there, so don't forget you're using your big brush for this. I'll put a little bit more blue over here before it dries out. Now you should do the same. It's going to take you a little while, so make sure you put a nice thick coat of blue, of water on before you start, and you have to mix all three of the colors way ahead of time. Let's take a look at how much paint I mixed up. Do you see how much I mixed up in here? I mixed a good little amount. This would be good if you had an empty egg carton for this or something, you know, because then you can get a good amount going on there. Maybe a teensy bit more under this cloud. All right, I'm going to let this dry. Here, after a couple minutes of working on it, it has gotten several layers over the top, and all the clouds have a little bit of softness to them, and it's finished off.